All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our second Bright Future Friday session. I hope we have lots of big smiles going on right now with our last day of the week of our second week of YouthWorks. We have some incredible panelists for you today that are going to introduce themselves in just a moment. But once again, I want to thank you for joining us. We're super excited to have you here. Make sure you drop comments in the comments section. Interact with us. We're so excited to answer your questions as we go along through this process together, talking about career exploration, our career journey. And today is our build track session. All right, so first off, we're going to have Molly introduce herself.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is such a pleasure to be here today. My name is Molly Jose, and I am a professional engineer with Hazen & Sawyer. We are a national engineering firm that focuses on water resources and environmental engineering. So I also, in my other life, also served on the Baltimore County Board of Education as a member at large. And I have been a part of YouthWorks since 2012. So thank you for having me here.
Hi, I'm Erin Allison from Hunt's Honey. This is my friend.
I'm Jennifer Gross.
So Hunt's Honey is a program of a nonprofit in Curtis Bay called Drink at the Well. We're a community drop-in center and kind of have a lot going on with a clothing closet and things like that, food distribution. But primarily, we're a mentorship program for women. But Jennifer and I work on the Hunt's Honey side of all of that, which is really a workforce development program. But we have honey. We have a beekeeping program that supplements our honey supply, but we sell a lot of honey. So we also are partnered with the University of Maryland and their honeybee research program and get their honey. And so then we sell edible honey, of course, jars of edible honey, but we also use the honey in our bath, body, and home products. So we use honey in soap and bath bombs and sugar scrubs, and then the rest of our products like beard salve and lotion bars and things like that have beeswax in it. And yeah, we're in about probably 25 or 30 shops in Baltimore and a few different states. And we employ women survivors, women that are going through the Wells Core Life Mentorship Program and learning, that they have gifts and talents and abilities, and just giving them a help up. And then some of them come to work at Hunt's Honey, and we equip them with skills and job experience to either stay here at Hunt's Honey with us or go on to bigger and better things as well. So that's us.
Good afternoon. My name is Marvin Hayes, and before I get started, I must make the disclaimer, even though we're meeting virtual and you've had the vaccine of your choice, I am contagious. I am a carrier of compost fever, and I am a long hauler for compost fever. I run a youth-led food scrap collection service that serves the amazing Filbert Street Garden, which I love to call the Wakanda of South Baltimore, where we don't make vibranium, but we do make goldenrod honey, and we make gold leaf gold compost. We serve this amazing community. We collect food scraps from Federal Hill, Riverside, Locust Point, Mount Washington, and we bring it back to the Filbert Street Garden, which is located in a food desert, a food insecure neighborhood, where it takes our resident about half an hour to get to a market that's not filled with GMOs and processed food. And me and my youth, I train youth in small scale composting, and we provide the black gold soil enhancer for those residents to be able to grow their own food. When you put compost, just a quick education, composting is the decomposing of organic material like your food and vegetable scraps, your coffee grinds, your tea bags, your eggshells, and we turn it into this beautiful black gold. And when you add compost to the soil, it sequesters carbon. So I would like to give everybody a welcome from Wakanda, where we serve youth and we train them in small scale composting.
Awesome. Thank you all for introducing yourselves and bringing that passion, talking about the work you do. Really appreciate it. I know our youth workers appreciate that energy too. So our first question is kind of, what was your first job ever? and your first job in a build-related field, but you can also kind of just talk about your career journey. Feel free to share some more about yourselves.
Thank you, Eric, for the question. So my first job ever was not related to engineering at all. Actually, was out of school working as a telephone receptionist, which I quickly realized I'm not good at. But as a civil engineer, we design and build things. So that is my experience in the design, conventional design build things. We design treatment plants, we design buildings, we design water tanks. My focus has mainly been on water resources, is what I focus on, environmental engineering. So actually a lot of the stuff that Mr. Hayes and Hunt's Honey does is kind of related. It's all cohesive to making sure we have a sustainable world, environmentally sustainable for everybody. It's a global push, and that's one of my goals to staying in what I do. It inspires me every day is building things that I like to see built. So in terms of the conventional, my current, so I guess your question was, I guess I answered your question. So that was it, right? Thank you.
So my first job was as a babysitter. My degree, my major was child development. I wanted to be a child psychologist. And I don't do that at all. Turns out that kids are not my favorite. But troubleshooting and having a sympathetic and empathetic heart, I can kind of see how that was just always from the beginning of time. That was one of my gifts. So it's just now poured into the ladies here at Hunt's Honey and into the Hive. So I still carrying that caring spirit, but just with people of different ages.
I never knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. And so I started college and I changed like 5 times, degree plans. And then I was like, I have this accumulation of classes. What's the fastest track to a piece of paper that says I'm a college graduate? And so it was interdisciplinary studies, which really doesn't qualify me for much of anything. But I was able to get certified to teach high school in Texas, and I did that for 2 years. And then I moved overseas with my husband, who's in the Air Force, and I stayed at home. I started having babies and stayed at home for 10 years. And then when they all went to school, I went back. I thought about going back to teaching, substitute taught for like a year, decided I did not want to go back to teaching, and just kind of started volunteering at a nonprofit that I was really passionate about here in Curtis Bay. And then I just came on as staff, and I've been here for about 5 years, and in just about every position. It was a lot smaller 5 years ago. So, so now I do business stuff, which I never thought that I would be doing, but I kind of like it.
So my first job would be entrepreneurial skills that my grandmother taught me would be washing her car, cutting her grass, and tilling her area where she grew tomatoes and peppers and rose bush. And I would do that for her neighbors. My first real job was with Blue Chippin'. Blue Chippin' is Youth Works of the 80s. Without them, I started as a CIT, a counselor in training at George Kelson Elementary School, which is in Sandtown, where I live. I first was introduced into my field. I was in a program called the Futures Program at Douglas High School, and I went to Outward Bound 5-day course. It was my first time out in the woods and going camping, canoeing, and doing rock climbing. At the end of it, we had a ropes course to do, and I was terrified. I had never been on a carabiner, never been 200 feet in the air and walk across a log. And I had an instructor by the name of Mike Beavers who said, Marvin, I was clutched onto this log, and I never forget what he told me. He said, Marvin, step out of your box. And at that time, I told him what I was going to do with my box, what I would do with the box once I got down from that tree. But that was my first time that I was ever exposed to composting. They told me to take my scraps and put them in the woods and bury them. And as I told them, we don't deal with our waste like that in West Baltimore. So that was my introduction to learning, which led me to the Wilderness School in Connecticut. That Outward Bound course led to me doing 5 different Outward Bound courses because I did not finish that ropes course. So I got an internship. My supervisor invited me to work in Connecticut at the Wilderness School. Once again, they told me, Marvin, you're going to bury your scraps and put them in the woods. At that, I did have no idea. In West Baltimore, that causes urban rabbits. And in the woods, that causes bears and lions and tigers at that time in my mind. So that's where I got introduced to composting, and my love for youth, working with Blue Chip, and led me into running this food scrap collection service led by youth.
Awesome. Thanks, Marvin. Thanks to the rest of the panelists for your thoughtful answers. So I just wanted to highlight this comment. It's more of a comment than a question, kind of towards you, Marvin. Cam wanted to say, Mr. Marvin, you got to look at Granny Project 20. We have a project that addresses food insecurity. Love to hear it. Keep these comments coming. I believe we had a question asking, how did you know what you want to do? Let's take that on.
You want me to go first, Deher?
Yeah, go for it, Molly. Thanks.
I still don't know what I want to do, so I'm still trying to figure out what it is that I really want to do. But I do like working towards structural equity in our society. That's something that is my goal, whether it's making sure it's environmental equity, educational equity, water equity. That's something that drives me. And that's why I serve on the school board as well, to make sure our children get a world-class education that's equitable for every zip code that lives in the county. And I have been mentoring Youth Works program. So what is it that I want to do? I'm still not sure, but I know that the passion for equity drives me every day.
How about you all at Hans Honey? How did you know what you want to do?
I mean, yeah, we just you just start doing something that you like, and I mean, you do it until you don't like it, I guess, or it leads to other things that you like more. I don't know. I don't have a good answer. Like I said, I just kind of did. I don't know. It just worked.
I guess for me, I always think about maybe not what, I guess what I do has a lot to do with the child that I was. If you look back at your childhood and you look at things that you were really, really good at, I always remember that I was always rooting for the underdog. I was always pushing for somebody else who didn't have the opportunities that I had, that didn't have the chances. And that was when I was very, very young. So from, let's say, 5 years old to 38 right now, I'm still doing that same thing. So I think you can always look back at your childhood and figure out what it was that you were good at, or what other people, your family, said that you were good at. And 9 times out of 10, that's probably what your career path, what you'll stick to.
I would say what led me to my field of work would be my passion and my love for youth. And then when I understood the impact and I understood where my trash goes and how it impacts the community that I work for, I'm in one of the most toxic areas in Baltimore City. And when I do compost workshops, I ask youth 2 questions. What is your favorite fruit and vegetable? And 2, have any of your family been affected by asthma and cancer? The incinerator in our neighborhood causes about $55 million in health damages for those residents. They put the incinerators in poor neighborhoods, but the wind doesn't segregate or discriminate. So when I go out, I ask the youth, what's your favorite fruit and vegetable? Because both of them can be composted. And then I ask them, have any of your family been affected by asthma or cancer? 98% of the youth that I serve in Curtis Bay and Brooklyn have asthma. They all raise their hand, and the teacher digs in her desk drawer and pulls out a bag of inhalers, a freezer bag full of inhalers, and the children start talking about, well, my uncle died from cancer. My mom is suffering from cancer. And that passion that people are dying, and the city puts a monetary value and not looking at that people are dying in my community. So that's where my passion goes, those youth that are affected by trash incineration, and my just overall love for youth. I've been working for youth for over 30 years, supporting them in a bunch of youth programs throughout the city, running alternative programs in Baltimore City schools, to my love of beginning to work with the youth at the Filbert Street Garden and providing them with compost training and giving them a living wage. So that's where my love comes from. My passion is from the youth, and they are our next generation. I'm hoping to inspire that next environmental justice leader who will take on this battle that we can divert 80% of Baltimore City municipal trash can be composted, recycled, and reused. So I'm hoping I can inspire that next environmental justice leader who will take over and start this youth-owned co-op food scrap collection service where the youth are not workers, but they're owners. So that's where my passion comes, because once again, all the youth out there listening, you are our future, and it is behold of all of us leaders to give you an opportunity to be leaders and put you in ownership positions so that you can then begin to take us to the next level.
Exactly. It's all about building up and empowering our youth here in Baltimore City. That's why I do what I do. And that's why we're here talking to you. All right. So let's move on to our next question. Kind of related, but what is your experience within a build-related industry, or what kind of building or manufacturing are you doing at your work at this moment? And we kind of talked about what led you to pursue this. So feel free to talk about that as much or as little as you'd like. All right, Molly, take it away.
So as a trained civil engineer, I'm designed to build, but I don't really do a lot of that traditional design build anymore. But one of the interesting projects I'm working on right now is, many of us don't know, but the city of Baltimore provides drinking water, safe drinking water, to almost 2 million people around the Baltimore metropolitan area. Many of us don't think what happens when you flush. All of that water goes to the city of Baltimore, Baltimore County, Baltimore City, and it's treated and it's discharged into the bay. So all of this ties into what Mr. Marvin does, what Hans Honey does. It all ties into the whole larger ecological footstep of what we do. So it is important. I'm building a siphon project, which is essentially a huge pipe that we could all walk through that transfers poop from the county to the treatment plant in the city. And it's almost 100 years old, and it is leaking into one of the streams. So it's very important to fix that without destroying the ecosystem, making sure we have native species grown in, and it crosses a stream in Baltimore City. So that is what I'm working on right now. So there's a lot of permitting, which is not glamorous work, getting from different agencies that have to approve when you are stepping onto a stream. So that is what I'm building on, a big pipe to transport poop, if that makes sense. So, and when it's done and built, I'll be really happy, and so will all the fish and the critters in the stream.
You take this one.
So in our build-related industry, we, as I mentioned, we use honey in a product. So we buy raw materials like honey and beeswax, essential oils, clays. We use a goat's milk soap base. And then we have recipes that we weigh and measure the raw materials, and usually there's melting and mixing involved. We usually pour the things into a mold. It gets hard. We cut it or extract it, and then we wrap it and label it. And then it's a finished product to be sold on our website or at various selling events, or to send to shops. And they put it on their shelves there. So again, we stumbled upon all that really by, it's kind of a long story, but because we wanted to be a part of sustainability with honeybees, and that whole thing, right? Like having bees for pollination, for food in the food desert, and that whole thing, but also the parallels of a hive in the community within the hive closely relate to how we empower and equip and give community to the women that we support, along with the benefits of honey. I mean, honey is good for the inside of your body, for the outside of your body, and it also is healing. And so we're kind of all about all of that. And it's just really a beautiful picture of how all of that stuff works together for what we do here at Hunt's Honey in the Well.
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm a beekeeper in training, so anytime anybody gets talking about honey or bees, I get excited as well. We have been blessed to be the model for Baltimore City for community composting, and we know the only way, sure way to get to zero waste is through education. So at the Baltimore Compost Collective, we are partnered with the Office of Sustainability, the Institute for Local Self-Reliance, and we have been doing the trainer program throughout community gardens throughout the city and building 3-bin systems so that those particular gardens can take their waste and convert it from waste to farm to table to be able to then take those materials and use that black gold soil enhancer to be able to grow their own food. So we've been so blessed to work with a bunch of community gardens, Plantation Farm, big shout outs to Farmer Chippy. We work with Hidden Harvest. We work with the Healing Garden. We are launching a bunch of composting 3-bin systems all around the city. So we believe trainer program will allow us, if I can divert 800 pounds at my site from going into the landfills and incinerators, and we have 10 other gardens that's doing that, we got 800,000 pounds that's being diverted from going into the landfills and incinerators, making it clean air for Baltimore City. So we're hoping to be that compost caboose. The caboose is at the back of the train, and it helps to chug-a-lug that train up the hills and going through all of the obstacles that it needs to go through. So we're hoping we can be that compost caboose that will push Baltimore City to curbside compost pickup and to more zero waste practices.
Awesome. And we had actually a comment, someone was asking, or individuals asking, how we can get compost in our schools. And I love that idea to have more composting in schools. I know when I was in undergrad at University of Maryland, that was an initiative that they were doing. But if we can get more composting into our city, our public schools in the city, that'd be a great initiative, right? So keep thinking like that, right, guys? We got to be creative, think outside the box to kind of make these more sustainable ideas happen, right? And we also had someone bring up I think more to Hunt's Honey, but also Marvin, you're thinking about becoming a beekeeper. Do you get stung by bees often? Is that something you deal with?
I've been at the garden for 6 years and I've never been stung. I'm a beekeeper in training. I have a hive along with Hunt's Honey, and we have the largest beehives for a community garden. We have over 40, I believe, at the garden, and we have a relationship with 311 where if we get a call for a swarm of bees, Charles and all the other beekeepers go out and rescue them and bring them back to the garden. And that's how we sustain the garden. Through all the sales of the honey, we're able to take care of feeding our livestock, to doing all the landscaping work around the garden. So I've been blessed to know that we need our bees. Our bees are the hardest working people at the garden. They work all year round and they make some beautiful, beautiful goldenrod with our local pollinators. So I'll turn it over to Hunt's Honey to piggyback.
I was so into what Marvin was saying. What's the question again?
Do you get stung by bees often?
I'm not going to say it's not often. I actually have not been stung. Our beekeeper, though, has been stung a few times. So it doesn't never happen, but not every time. It's not often.
You also have a lot of commenters that are excited about your honey and they want to try to get some. So have to share some. Share your website or something so we can get that honey out there. So we had
Absolutely.
yeah,
I do want to point out that without bees, our entire ecosystem will collapse, our food chain will collapse, and we'll not have food. So bees are very critical to food, to just for human beings to be alive because they pollinate crops. So thank you. I'm actually very inspired and I want to start my own beehive now.
That's right.
yeah, go
I
for
do
it.
have a compost bin, so Mr. Hayes, I'm covered there.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. You can get bee fever as well. You can get honey fever really quick. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm stung. I'm on that bee fever train. All right, so let's take a comment or a question from our commenters. Question is, what work advice do you have for teens just starting to get into the work field? Molly, do you want to take that one? Who wants to take that one?
Sure.
Sure.
What advice do you have for teens? It's really hard to know what you want when you're a teenager, but find something that you love. And I know that's a very cliched advice that everybody gives you. Find something that you love, find something that you're passionate about. But those things in the end do matter. Something that makes you happy to get up and go to work. And sometimes it may not be exciting. It may not be all glamorous. I'm sure when you're getting stung by bees, it's not as glamorous, and composting may not seem very glamorous, but in the end result, if it's something that you're happy about, then you should continue doing it. And ask questions and seek mentors. I think that's important. Seek somebody that has been in the field that will advise you, that will take you under their wings. And I think that is important, to have a mentor as well, developing and forging relationships and alliances with people that are wiser and older than you.
So my heart is really in workforce development. So the best advice that I could give is to show up. Get up and go to work every morning. You might not be the best at what you're doing. You can learn to be the best, you can learn to be better, but people will recognize, your supervisors will recognize when you get up and just go to work. That speaks volumes. Go to work, work your shift, and go on home. That's it.
I just want to piggyback on the rest of the panelists. Find something that you're passionate in. If it's something that you want to do, once again, find the elder who's doing that so you can get that experience and start working with them. And as Honey said as well, show up. If you're not 5 minutes ahead of time, then you're late. Go in there with the intent to work and to learn. Always be able to take constructive criticism and come back and do better. And as she said, just show up. Just show up. That's half the battle.
Well said, everyone. Yeah, coming to work, getting there on time is a biggie, right? That really speaks volumes, as our panelists are saying. So kind of off of that, what advice do you wish you had received as a young adult when starting off your professional journey? So maybe we can build off of that a little bit. I guess for me, I'll actually try to give some advice. So as a young adult myself, really coming with the intention of improving upon yourself every day, I think is a really important step in that right direction of kind of starting off that professional journey right. So even if you're doing something you don't really love, I know in the past, I kind of worked in the restaurant industry, and maybe it wasn't a passion of mine at first, but like I really brought the energy every day as best as I could. You know, you don't have it every day, but just bring in some passion with you where you can find it is some of my advice. So Molly, do you want to go off of that?
So the question was, what advice you wish? For me, it has been, I wish somebody had told me that there's going to be places, there's going to be spaces that are not built for women, that are not built for people of color. And you're not going to be comfortable going in there, but do it anyways, go in there. And it's not the onus on me to dismantle systemic racism or misogyny, but to do my work, to work hard and show my passion and like I said, forging alliances, making allies, and doing what I do. So I wish somebody had told me it's okay to be uncomfortable. That is not my burden to carry. So there'll be spaces that you're not going to be comfortable going in as a person of color, as a woman, and it's okay. It's okay to do that. It's okay to go there and feel uncomfortable and do what you want to do.
We're still processing your answer,
Yeah.
Mr. Marvin.
Okay, yeah, I can jump in. I would say to the secret, not trying to do everything by yourself. The Baltimore Compost have been successful because it is a collective. It is truly a collective. I have such great team members and partners. The great thing from an entrepreneur is surrounding yourself with good people. You may not be good at certain things, so you find people who can fit into those, and you play your role. You have to put together a strong team, and trust them to do the work, and don't burn yourself out, and allow and trust people to help you along with your process. So that would be one of the things. You can get burnt out really quick trying to do it by yourself. To have a great team backing you is a wonderful thing. So put a good team and surround yourself with good people.
I'm just going to say, always just do your best. You might get into a job where, you're not the best at everything, but you are the best at something. And so if you have a good supervisor, they're going to see what you're really good at. And if they're a smart supervisor, then they'll put you in positions where your strengths really shine. So, but they're not going to know that unless you're doing your best and really in showing your abilities that you have. So, just always do your best no matter what it is that you're doing.
To piggyback off of that, I'd say bringing a positive attitude to your workspace, because that goes a long way. All right, so we have a question here kind of talking about maybe dealing with challenges through work. Let's say, have you ever been questioned in what you do? And kind of how do you deal with maybe criticism, or if your supervisor maybe critiques you, kind of how do you work through that?
So when you're younger, you also are not sure of what you want to do. So you're not sure if the work product is good. One of the key things when I was in my 20s and out of school and grad school, I had a really good mentor, was I came in early and I stayed late. I learned, I took the time to ask questions. And criticism can be a good ally to actually make you a better person. So you can ask that question to your supervisor. How would you have done it differently? What would you have done? Ask them that question and see what they say. And that could be very helpful if you're being critiqued or criticized for something you did. Put the question back onto them. What would you have done? How could I have done it differently? And that might help you, forge a relationship with your supervisor and do it the better, do it the right way if that's an issue with your supervisor.
Criticism's never fun, but I think if you come into it, we're always learning things. I'm better today than I was tomorrow. And hopefully it's helpful criticism. Sometimes it's not always easy to hear. I know it takes me a little while to process. I liked what Molly said about asking, really, how can I do this better? So you have some new goals, maybe, rather than this wasn't right, but this is what it could have, where you could have done it differently. So that's helpful if you have some actual new goals. But again, just a positive attitude and just taking it, just always learning something new and trying to become better.
I would say with dealing with criticism, it's motivation for me to come in and do better. And it gives me an opportunity to do what I do better and take advice from people who have a little bit more knowledge than me. You don't know it all. Every day is a learning experience. So you just try to come in with a better attitude, and whatever that criticism was, have an intent to work on that to be better the next day and just improve and continue to keep on keep on pushing yourself to be better every day and always be willing to learn.
I love that. Yeah. So trying to take it as a learning opportunity. It's maybe easier said than done, but definitely a great way to go after your work, So let's kind of switch gears and let's talk about mentors. So have you had a mentor or multiple mentors? I know Marvin mentioned kind of having a whole team behind you. And if so, how has having a mentor helped you?
So I've not had a lot of mentors in my career. My first job, I did have a mentor for 4 years, and that helped make the foundation for my current job, where I actually now mentor people. My mentor was very supportive, and one of the key advices he told me was, this is in the early 2000s, about 20 years ago, before it was so technologically advanced. He told me, pick up the phone and ask questions when you have questions. And that's something I still to this day do. I always pick up the phone and call people, ask questions, and form relationships. And that makes people comfortable. So it did help me follow that advice. And having a mentor is very important. So I hope all of you, when you go into work, will forge a relationship with somebody and get a mentor.
I think having a mentor is good, both personally and professionally. Professionally, I admired, had kind of a mentor as a teacher who was always doing like really cool, creative, interactive things in her classroom. And I saw that the kids really responded to cool, interactive things. So, I just was like, okay, that's working. And I want to do more of that. So yeah, I just like to learn from people who are doing things that I feel are effective. And I really try to adapt my stuff.
And she told me not to say this, but I have the pleasure of working with Erin. Erin is my supervisor. She is my friend, and she is my mentor. That's very rare that you're going to find all three of those things in one person and get along with them and actually be able to talk outside of work and work alongside of them. But it is a blessing. I can't even, I could go on and on, but she would kill me, about just how she's helped me in every aspect of my life. And I have seen so much growth in myself, professionally, personally, everything. It's very rare. So thank you, my friend. Now she'll blush.
And once again, I've been so blessed to have so many mentors throughout my learning process. Two of the greatest lessons that I've learned from my mentors is always be professional. No matter what's going on, you say a prayer, no matter what your children did before you went to go to work, or you had an argument with your partner, you leave all that in the car and you come in there with your game face on. Nobody should know that anything is going on. It's just like acting. The show must go on. So always maintaining your professionalism, even if the walls are breaking down around you, you are accountable for yourself. And one of the other lessons that I learned is it is a blessing to be a blessing to others. So I will always give back to any youth, all the youth that are interested in doing composting at your schools. Please reach out to the Baltimore Compost Collective so that you can come visit the Filbert Street Garden. I can teach you about composting, maybe help you find the appropriate system for your school or for your community garden or for your home composting. So I think just giving back, anything that you do, you have to give back to others and pass that torch on to the next generation so they can continue to fight.
Awesome. Well said, everybody. And I love the sharing that love that Jennifer did for her supervisor, showing that appreciation. I think also goes a long way. So I love to hear that. Yeah, that's pretty rare. I haven't necessarily had the opportunity to have that close of a connection with my supervisors, but I've definitely tried to build that bridge and build those connections. as Molly was saying, it's really important to build relationships through the work. It's called networking, right? So not just for yourself, but for that other individual as well. So you're sharing your perspectives, they're sharing theirs, and that's kind of how you can build that collaboration through work, and you can learn and they can learn as well. So I really appreciate our panelists' responses here, and we're going to keep taking questions from the comments section. We had some good ones here. So how do you manage your time with your job and your everyday life? Do you have a written schedule, or do you go with the flow? I know for me, I try to write as much down as I can, or I use like Google Calendar or something so that I can keep track of what I'm doing every day with meetings and then these live sessions, for example, making sure that I'm on point. But yeah, how do you all balance that?
It's really hard as a mom with two kids, a working mom, a full-time job, and also serving on the Baltimore County School Board. It takes a lot of scheduling that I have to do. Time management is critical. I have all around me little notes that I'll keep, little post-its of things that I have to do. And I feel really good after I scratch it off, even if it is calling the doctor for an eye appointment. It'll be there in my list. Finishing up an invoice or writing a report, just crossing it out at the end of the day. Sometimes those lists don't get completed, but I also use technology a lot. So I'm going to have appointments and things on my phone, on my computer, so it pops up so I don't forget things. And I still do, but I do keep those little post-it notes of things that are prioritizing, like what's more important, what needs to be done today, what can be done tomorrow, what can wait, what can't wait. I think that helps. And I'm still learning, so don't go by what I said.
I use the calendar app on my phone, like my family things that I'm scheduling for my husband or my 3 kids, doctor's appointments or whatever, is pink. And work stuff, honey work stuff is orange, and work stuff is green. So that's how I track that. And kind of like Molly was saying, I use the reminder app on my phone for like projects I know that are going to take a little bit of more time, or things that aren't going to take a lot of time, but they're not super urgent. So like if I have, a hole and I can revert, or I can go back to that list, and I was like, what's something I can knock off this list real quick? And so, yeah, it's in constant flux. There's things that have been on that list for an embarrassing long time, but I knocked some stuff off of it a couple days ago. So those are kind of my 2 go-tos for managing my job and everyday life.
Yes, if it's not for Google Invite or Google Calendar, I would miss a bunch of opportunities, and I wouldn't have my schedule in order, and I would be going with the flow. So I make sure that I put all of my calendar invites in and have reminders a half an hour before I have to start a project. And I would say another important thing is to make time for yourself. One of my good mentors has always told me, Marvin, take time to breathe, because you can get overwhelmed with your family, with your business and all that stuff. So you have to take the time for yourself, because once again, if you're not good, you're not going to be good to your employer or to your project or to your business. So also make time to breathe in your schedule as well.
I love it. Yep. Building upon yourself, loving yourself as part of it, right? And making sure you take time to do things you enjoy. I know sometimes we might forget that, especially as adults in our professional lives, we get really busy or taking care of family. But finding time where you can to like take a deep breath can really go a long way. It can really help out. All right, so I have one more question that was planned for all our panelists, but I'll keep looking out for any questions in the comment section as well. So here's our last planned question. Is there any personal advice you would like to share to our youth workers? Anything else you'd like to talk more about? We have some really interesting projects that you all are working on. So feel free to talk about what you'd like.
So personal advice for me, I think, I listened to what Mr. Hayes said. That is very important. You can't run on empty. So you have to make sure you replenish yourself. And that's something I'm still learning. I tend to do too much and then get burnt out. And that is real. So sometimes it's okay to, and I work with a technology firm that actually has a week every month that they disconnect themselves, no technology, no devices, and they do things that's unrelated, just disconnecting from everything and focusing on yourself. And that is important as well, to kind of recharge yourself, take time for yourself, build upon yourself. And because you can't give to others if you're empty. So that is something that I think is important.
Personal advice. I think the fact that you youth are a part of this program is a step in the right direction, to listen to folks like us and other people at your various job sites, and just gaining knowledge and experience is a lot more than some youth are doing. So I'd say you're on the right track, and yeah, just keep learning and growing.
And going to work and showing up at work. Keep going to work.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. I would just say take your youth work opportunity. Just don't think of it as a summer job. Think of it as a building block. This is going to be some of your first experience on your resume. So take this opportunity very serious. If it wasn't for Youth Works, and big shouts out to Ernest Dorsey and Sharon Whalen for giving me so many opportunities. When I first interviewed for my first youth work job, my mom made me go in with a 3-piece suit on. And I was so mad with her at the point, but I stood out and I was able to get a job that paid more than the other youth workers, just simply because of how I looked. Not without asking a question, I stood out in the crowd, and my public speaking from going to Sunday school and going to church, being able to articulate myself, and always showing up, as she said, with a positive attitude and being willing to learn. So don't be afraid to go that extra mile. Don't think of this as just a summer job. Think of it as a building block. This will be some of your first experience that'll go on your resume. Take that networking. Find out what other opportunities Youth Works has, so you can then build on your experience from this summer. Remember to say please and thank you. To always give A1 customer service. Never let them see you sweat no matter what is going on. Always show up with a positive attitude. And if you need to, go in the bathroom, get yourself together, take a break, have a one-on-one in that mirror and say, hey, we got to get this together. I need this income. And in order for me to get the income, I have to show up and I have to do my best. So just try to go that extra mile. Please and thank yous will take you so far, and wearing 3-piece suits to your interview as well.
I love that story, Marvin. Nice. Yeah. So, so take all that advice. I don't have much to add to that, but I did want to bring up a comment that we got that really is kind of like we can kind of show some of our vulnerability here. So we have a question about whether we get overwhelmed, and I have to admit that I do. I'm still learning this whole public speaking thing. Before this, I was working with my Young Money mentors who are doing a great job and stepping out of their comfort zone and learning how to public speak, work on their public speaking. So it's not easy. Things like that, and just being at work and stepping out of your comfort zone, working on new skills is really important. So I'd love to hear from all of you panelists on your thoughts.
So getting overwhelmed is a very human feeling. If you're getting overwhelmed, that's a good thing. That means you are doing, things, and you're working and you're going to it. So I get overwhelmed all the time. I feel sometimes I have too much on my plate. So the way I do it, like I mentioned, was I take time for myself, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's just reading a book and disconnecting. So it is easy to get overwhelmed. And you, just like your cell phones, you have to charge the batteries. You got to charge yourself as well. So time for yourself, whether if it's just disconnecting, taking time, going out for a walk, or whether it's meeting an old friend for dinner or lunch, if that's what recharges you, what feeds your soul, take time to do that. I think that's important. And, and then live another day.
I would say that we get overwhelmed at Christmas time because we're, as I said, manufacturing and retail, and the nature of retail is that it's crazy from October to December. So because I know that it's coming, we can really try to do our best to prepare for it, to mitigate some of those things that get overwhelming. Like we're right now kind of evaluating how much stuff we need to order so we don't run out mid crazy and then, we're stressed to the max because we need, we ran out of something. So just kind of like when you can, and a busy time is coming, to try to plan ahead for that, so that you can be a little bit more prepared when it comes. And then knowing that it's just a season. And I think, retail is an actual season, but I think most things in life are, happen for a season. You're not like constantly overwhelmed forever. Like you may get overwhelmed, and then something in your life that you can do will slow it down. So just kind of knowing that it's not going to last forever. If you can get through it, if you can do some things, like Molly said, to help yourself deal, you will come out on the other side, and there'll be the end of that season and a new season when maybe it's not so crazy. Another example of that is I'm in school for my master's degree, and I've been taking those classes, but because I know that October through December are going to be crazy professionally, I'm going to take a little bit of a break academically. So I don't have, now I can do that because it's not so busy in my work life. But because I know that's coming, I know I'm going to have to trim back in a different area of my life academically, so that I can give more to my family and professionally during the season that I know is coming. And then that season will be over, and I'll be able to step back into another area that I want to, be busy in. So
that was really good.
Yeah. Okay, I would say yes, definitely. I get overwhelmed, but two of my famous sayings stop me from this. So everybody, pull out your notepad. Proper preparation stops a poor performance. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. So you always have to prepare and make sure you're ready. If you know you're going to have, I might have 3 different groups coming in for tours and workshops. So I'm there early in the morning preparing. That way I'm not stressed out when they come. I'm ready to start my workshop. I'm ready to start my tours. So proper preparation stops a poor performance, and stay ready so you never have to get ready. So always make sure you're prepared.
Awesome. Exactly. So being prepared for the work ahead, the day ahead, the week ahead, the month ahead, is definitely great advice. Thanks, Marvin. All right. So I want to say thank you so much to our panelists. I think what we're going to do is kind of have a little closeout here. Feel free to give some final words to our youth workers. But again, I really appreciate all 4 of you for coming out to our virtual Bright Future Friday session today, talking about the build track, talking about empowering youth, talking about our career journeys, and all the advice you've shared. I think is wonderful, and I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us, and this was wonderful. So I cannot end this without a shout out to the first mentee I ever did, was George Boswell, that came into me from Youth Works almost 10 years ago as a high school student from Polytech. And he stayed with us. He was just folding papers, filing things. He went on to Morgan State. He still interned with us through Youth Works. Today, George Boswell works for Northrop Grumman as an engineer. I'm very proud of him. He's one of my success stories. So, stay with it, do what you like, and good luck for everything. And thank you for having us. This was a pleasure.
Yeah, just thanks for having us. And like I said, you're on the right track, I think, with this whole Youth Works thing and putting forth the effort and trying to learn and grow. And we're just grateful that we got to share a little bit of what we do.
Keep going to work.
That's right. I love it. I love it. Once again, thank you for this opportunity. You've continued to be great. Let your light shine. Remember, be better than your best. Always show up with a positive attitude. And I just want to thank Mr. Ernest Dorsey, Ms. Sharon Whalen for hiring me back when I was 15 and 9 months, and I couldn't wait to start working and giving me so many opportunities to learn and become the leader that I am today. So please take advantage of Youth Works. It can lead to so many opportunities for you guys. And remember to always give back. When you get to be an adult, give back and be a host site for Youth Works. Help some youth along to give back. Remember, it's a blessing to bless others. Thank you so much. And before I go, remember, compost. Learn so you don't have to burn. Starve the incinerator. Feed the soil. Feed the community. Compost around is a terrible thing to waste. Thank you.
All right. And we're going to close out on that. Thank you again for all of your interaction and your comments and questions. So have a great weekend ahead, and we'll see you next week. All right.
Thank you. Yeah.